Well, hi everyone. Good afternoon, and thanks to everyone joining us today. My name is Rose Beth, and I'm the chair of the Montpelier Conservation Commission and a member of the ABCC Board of Directors. As community-led initiatives have become more important than ever, we greatly appreciate the opportunity to collaborate both on this webinar and potentially in future efforts with our friends at VECAN, the Vermont Energy and Climate Action Network. Recognizing that the most lasting and impactful changes are informed and implemented at the local level, our organizations work to convene, educate, and support municipal volunteers across the state, conservation commissioners at the ABCC, and energy committee members at VECAN. Today, we're exploring grassroots efforts to map, monitor, and clean the culverts, ditches, and drains that protect our towns from flooding and erosion. Our presenters will share two different approaches to this work based in citizen science, engaging community volunteers to take a proactive role in conservation. Before I hand it over to our presenters, I just want to run through a few quick housekeeping items. You're welcome to keep your camera on or off, but we ask that you mute yourself to minimize any background noise and distractions. Feel free to write your questions in the chat as we go, or hold them until the end of the presentation. We welcome your curiosity and encourage you to share your own thoughts and experiences as well. Our first presenters are Kelly Stettner and Charis Boke from the Culvert Crawlers, a collaboration between members of the Black River Action Team, Cavendish Connects, Black River Valley Resources, the Rural Rivers Project, and students at Dartmouth College. Kelly and Charis will talk about the origins of the program, explain how the mapping platform works, and then show you how to launch a similar initiative in your own town. So whenever you're ready, Charis and Kelly.
Yeah, I'll just super briefly say hello. I'm Dr. Charis Boke. I'm a research scientist and lecturer at Dartmouth College, and I live in Springfield, Vermont, where and through those two roles, I run the Rural Rivers Research Team. And we get to work with Kelly and the Black River Action Team as some of our key community partners. So Kelly, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Charis. And I'm Kelly Stettner, founder and director of the Black River Action Team for the last 25 years. And essentially since the flooding in 2023 that hit Ludlow and Cavendish so very, very hard, we being Black River Action Team, me and the volunteers that were showing up out of the woodwork, we were working on clearing mud, helping people remove flood-soaked material from their homes, businesses, and it became obvious within just a few days that we needed to look at where this water and sediment and mud was coming from. And we have another partner in Cavendish, Margot Caulfield, who reached out to me and said, Kelly, we need to start talking about the culverts, because the culverts are getting clogged and backed up and they're misaligned, et cetera, so forth, they're blocked. So one thing led to another. We were still doing a lot of emergency response. Charis showed up as a volunteer multiple times during the first few weeks, probably even the first month of flood response. And she kept reaching out to me to say, hey, we should connect. We should be doing a project together. And we finally did connect. It wasn't until I believe it was January of 2024. Was it? No, 2023. Wait, sorry. Yeah. It was probably January 2024. We did finally meet and talk, and we decided that culverts is definitely the way we need to be. Is the thing we need to be looking at. My focus on looking at the culverts was very much the community resilience side of things. There's the landscape aspect of where is water going when it hits the ground. How can we keep it out of the culvert drains and ditches? But also, how can we help the community be part of the solution with stormwater? A lot of people, even months after, even a year after the 2023 devastation, they would express to me that they were very stressed every time it even rained, even if it wasn't just it was just a gentle rain, they were stressed. So the Culvert Crawlers came about from a variety of perspectives between Charis and Margot and myself and Charis's other partners. But my focus has been very much on how do we help community members be proactive, get out there. And a lot of fear comes from not knowing, not understanding and not knowing So if people get out onto their neighborhoods and onto the end of their driveway, into their communities, and start looking for culverts, seeing them, understanding what a healthy, properly functioning culvert looks like, and what some of the elements might be that could restrict a culvert's functionality, it gives them that feeling of some level of power. I'm aware of all of these culverts. I know what could be done at my level. I can rake the leaves out of the ditch. I can pull a little bit of sediment out of the end of a culvert, but I can also use this amazing online tool that Charis and her team have developed to document it, to survey it, to know where it is, and to report that and engage with my town so that they can do the next level of maintenance or repair or even replacement. So getting the people out there on the landscape to be part of the stormwater solution was really where my head and heart are at. And I think I got my son involved in helping to oh, I can't even get it dragged into there. Oh, there it is. It's in the chat. So I was able to have a little bit of fun with this, and we did develop a mascot, which he also appears on our safety vests, and I'm picking up another load of hats coming up here very soon. Well, I'm not sure if that picture's going to load, but I will shut up now and pass this on to Charis and let her talk a little bit more about her role in this amazing project.
Thanks, Kelly. Yeah, it's been really a delight. I grew up in the Black River watershed, and I've lived here. I left and then I came back. And it's been a delight to develop work in this watershed that I've been thinking about for a long time. Of course, it's heartbreaking that it had to happen on the heels of a catastrophic flooding. And yet here we are thinking really critically about how do institutions like Dartmouth College, with the resources of students and time and money that come out of them, play a role in developing critical community capacities for mitigation work, for sustainability, for resilience in the long term. And so I'm a cultural anthropologist, which means that I study living people and cultures, and I work primarily in the US. I've worked elsewhere before, but one of the things that I'm interested in is the intersection of human and environmental health. So when I was doing response to the flooding with Kelly and also with mutual aid disaster relief in 2023, I was thinking a lot about the way that climate change, or if you prefer to think of it that way, excess rainfall, is changing the level of exposure of various kinds for humans to health risks. And as we're thinking together, Kelly and I and my partners, Dr. Sarah Kelly at Dartmouth College and Aletha Spang, as well as Dr. Elizabeth Reddy at Colorado School of Mines, about how to intervene in ways that use academic resources to support community stability, culverts seem to be the way to go. This is not where I expected that my anthropology career would take me, but here we are. It turns out that infrastructure that is made by humans is also a product of human society. So it's been a delight over the last couple of years to work with Kelly and Margot and Sarah and Aletha and others from a baby app on Survey 123 that Sarah's class developed, through working with our research computing team at Dartmouth, which is Jingqi, William Cowan, and Stephen Gahn, to develop an online platform that is not proprietary. It's open source and it's open access, which means that anyone can enter data, anyone can look at the data. And if you make a login, which is very simple, you can also download the data for other use. Now, this is not a regulatory tool. So we know that VT Culverts is out there as a database. We know that some of you on this call or watching this video later are thinking a lot with VT Culverts. And you might be saying to yourself, wait a minute, we already have a culvert database. True. That database is wonderful and an important regulatory tool. And it's also based on a proprietary software that not everyone can access to enter data, and not everyone always knows how to read. So part of our goal with developing Culvert Crawlers' community science map and survey tool is to do what Kelly said, to provide folks the opportunity to feel some agency in intervening in small-scale stormwater infrastructure, to know how to safely and without damaging the culverts clear out any blockages, which then reduces the risk of localized erosion and localized flooding, both with culverts with ditches and with drains. We have them all sort of included in our app, which I will show you in just a minute. The purpose of this app is to think more broadly also about who gets to make knowledge about storms and stormwater and the maintenance of infrastructure. So we know that a lot of our town road crews are understaffed and underfunded. We know that town managers and town offices and planning commissions are all asked to do more to meet regulatory requirements than there are probably hours in a day to do. So one of the things that's in the back of our mind as we're telling people about Culvert Crawlers, as we're encouraging folks to collaborate with their town road crews and with their town managers or other relevant folks who actually do the heavy duty maintenance work, is to say, how can we, as people who live here, be helpful to you as people whose job it is to maintain some of this infrastructure? Are there tasks that would make sense for people who are not in those roles, who are volunteers, to take on? Digging out a completely blocked culvert, or replacing a culvert might not be the purview of people volunteering with Culvert Crawlers. But there are things that people can do in the culverts that are just around their area, in the ditches and the drains that are around their area. And when we are able to do those in collaboration and consultation with road crews, with town offices, we can help identify areas where more targeted maintenance and repair is acutely needed, which is what we designed this app for. We designed it to be mobile friendly, usable in an offline setting. Currently working out a couple of bugs in that, but it has worked, and it will continue to work in offline settings, which we know a lot of our Vermont backroads are in. The purpose being that then people who gather data can target their data gathering on roads that the town road crew has identified as key areas that they want to know how's the infrastructure looking. Then the road crew can go look at the infrastructure that has been flagged as in need of repair and prioritize that. That's one way that people can use this app. It can be used in a lot of different ways, but in a couple of the towns we've worked in, that's been one of the most useful things. So I will now share my screen with you to walk you through first the app platform. I shouldn't call it an app. I should call it a platform. This is a web-based platform. If you want the technical details, I'm happy to give them to you. But basically, it's a website, and there is a way to save a shortcut to this website on your phone via Safari on an Apple or iPhone platform, or via Google Chrome on an Android platform. When you save the shortcut to your phone, which I can't demonstrate because I'm on a computer right now, then you can click that shortcut open while you're in Wi-Fi range, and then turn off your Wi-Fi on your cell signal and go out to whatever road you're going on to. The data will store locally, and then you can re-upload it when you turn your Wi-Fi and cell signal back on when you're back home. So that's just a little bit of the overview. And I will log into my account, which you don't have to make one of these, but I'll log into mine so I can show you all the cool tools in here. So this is the community science map that is visible to anyone who wants to look at it. So you can look at this without a login. As you can see, we've got some folks gathering data in the Ludlow Cavendish area. This is where we started the project. We've got some data from the White River partners, Dana Clausen, Sarah Kelly, and the folks at the Energy Commission in Hartford there. And we've got new partners up in Waterbury who just started gathering data this past Green Up Day when a bunch of us were out doing surveys. So I will just, hopefully this won't make you too sick as I zoom in. Here is some data from Cavendish, which is where we started the project. So it has the most density of mapped culverts. You can see here's a road with many points documented. So each of these is one data point. So it shows you where the geolocation is, what type of record it is, and then any other information that was entered in an additional field. And if there's a problem, there's a statistical model that our research computing team built to help to flag culverts. So blue means it's just sort of a normal culvert, not a huge problem. Orange is the next level of concern, and red is a higher level of concern. So that's the one that folks like the town managers or the road crew might want to prioritize. So here in this extra field, some blockage is probably what made this culvert get flagged as in need of additional repair. But so this is a map that anyone can look at to see, okay, where are the areas of focus that we want to zoom in on and really make sure we're maintaining those culverts, or where are there potential problems. Over here, this community science map is accessible through a login, which again, super easy to make. And it can be filtered by property type, that is public, private, bordering public, private, or unknown. It can be filtered by report type, so culverts, ditches, and drains are all reporting options in the survey. And it can be filtered by severity. So if we filter only by severity, then we see, okay, here are the culverts that in the most recent data set probably need more attention. So severely corroded metal is a reason for higher level of attention. And if you are a person who works on VT culverts or another database, you can also export the data in a variety of formats. I am not the person to explain all these formats to you, but if you are interested in this conversation, I'm happy to connect you with the research computing team and with our GIS specialist who can explain in more detail how to integrate the data. You can also look at how the data is made in the backend. Again, not my forte, but it's here, and you can access this just by creating a login. So, okay, great. There's how the data gets processed, but how do you put the data in? Excellent question. Over here in this sidebar, you'll see survey tool, training site, and training material. So if you click on training site, that'll take you to the place where we have the overview of how to save the shortcut to your phone, how to quick access the survey link or the community science link, and then some more detailed descriptions of what this is all about, including a training packet that we update regularly. It's based on Google Docs. That if all goes well, and we welcome feedback on this, you should be able to just download this training packet, access this video. Oh, of course, live demonstration failed. There is a video link in there for a tutorial video that some students made. So between the video and the training packet, you should be able to go out into your community to run a mini training with people that are excited about doing this project together, this small scale stormwater infrastructure monitoring and maintenance project. Some more information about our collaborators here. So that's how you get sort of oriented to the platform and saving it and how to use it. When you actually go to the survey tool, this is what you will see. It's just a very visually simple tool that's designed to be usable by folks who are at varying levels of tech comfort and familiarity. And so you just put in your email address, however that looks. This is what mine looks like here. This is case sensitive. And then if I click on use my location, it should, well, I have it turned off on my computer. That will enter the latitude and longitude. When you're surveying infrastructure, it's really important to stand right over the inlet of the culvert. That is where the water goes into the pipe. Stand as close to the inlet as you can. And this helps to match up and to ensure that as we collect data over time, the records stack on top of each other. So then we can have a historical record of what that culvert has looked like over time. And if it's the same with a drain, and then with a ditch, just stand in the part that needs the most attention, the reason that you're surveying the ditch. So then you choose which type of record you're reporting on here. And there's a number of drop-down menus, that some of which are self-explanatory, some of which are not. So plastic pipe, metal pipe, concrete masonry, what's it made of? How big is it? This is an estimate field. We know that in the VT Culvert survey, there's an exact measurement tool. But when we're thinking about how do we make it possible for folks in communities to go out and feel comfortable collecting data themselves, we really want to make it feel more accessible. And so an estimate is what we ask for. Water flow, this is somewhat subjective, but a range of what amount of water is flowing through is fine for getting a sense of how problematic the culvert might be. Blockage, this is obviously pretty important. This sometimes requires leaning down to look through the culvert, and obviously 25 to 50% or 50% and over is more, that would flag the culvert for more maintenance. Perch status. If you, like me, prior to doing this, had never heard of a perched, like what perch status meant, you might say, how do I know if it's perched? So you can click these little information buttons that give you a description of what it means, what that technical terminology means. Same with header, describes what a header is. Same with inlet, describes where the water goes in. So we're looking at header condition, we're looking at inlet condition, overall, like at the entrance to the culvert, outlet condition, and then places to upload photos. On some devices, you can click this button and it will give you an opportunity to take a picture with your camera. On others, you have to take the picture and then upload the photo. But either way, you can upload one photo there. That gives your road crew or whoever is coming later a chance to really see what it is you're writing about. And this section here, the public-private, I might be preaching to the choir, as it were, but so you might already know that in Vermont, some towns require landowners to maintain their own driveway and culverts, and other towns that maintenance is taken on by the town road crew. So these are culverts that run right at the end of a driveway and are within the town right-of-way. So knowing whether driveway and culverts are the town's responsibility or a homeowner's responsibility is, per town by town, a really important thing to know. But we don't require that people know that for the purpose of this app. We just say, okay, is this a road crossing culvert? Is this culvert crossing the public right-of-way? In that case, it's public. Is this a culvert that is 400 feet up a driveway on somebody's personal property that they're surveying for their own maintenance and information? That is a private culvert. And if it's a driveway and culvert, it's bordering public and private. We have the unknown category there just because there's gonna be some situation where someone can't figure out what it is. So we want to leave room for that. And this is really information. This information is really important for being able to share more broadly with what culverts are needing to be maintained by whom. Additional information, you can enter that as needed. You can review your report before submitting. And then when you submit it, if you're offline, you should get a pop-up saying, you might have to wait a minute. You get a pop-up saying, okay, your report has been saved locally. That means it's on your phone or on your device. And you can do then another report. It should pop up blank. So you can do another report on another culvert. And then when you get back into service, you can turn your Wi-Fi back on and your cell service back on. And all of them should, we keep that platform open. All of them should slowly upload over the next 24 hours or so. Yeah, so Kelly, do you want to jump in and add anything while I have this up and I can navigate us to places?
Just as a caveat, I am the Wilma Flintstone of technology. So when there are otherwise everybody else would get this and understand this, I will come up with that, excuse me, I have a question. And you guys have been extremely responsive, and you've actually been able to add details for those of us who are not technically minded. And I still have some things I have to, excuse me, so I still need to talk with you about a couple things. But by and large, once you've done a few of these on a phone or other enabled device, it goes pretty quickly. You start getting a sense of what is a header, what would constitute a blocked culvert. What should I or should I not be trying to clear here? We're not encouraging folks to dig ditches. We're not encouraging people to try to fix a culvert or replace a header stone. There's a minimal amount of maintenance that is, I would say, suggested, but nobody has to. If you're just wanting to do the survey, you can just do the survey. And I think the only other thing is that there's also a fairly robust safety packet that comes along with this, road awareness, poisonous plant awareness, all that kind of things. I'm trying to think of what else. It can get kind of fun if you do this with a team of 2 or 3 other people. You know, one crew starts at the end of the road, the other crew starts at the other end of the road, you meet in the middle, you have pizza. You do it on Green Up Day, you're cleaning up some garbage, you're meeting a few neighbors. You got these cool vests or hats on, you got a little road cone out, you don't look like a town worker. People come out and ask, what are you up to? And you get the conversation going with people in the neighborhood. It's been really rewarding, and it's just getting better. This is leading to conversations at the town level, at the community level, and beyond, around how do we keep our infrastructure in good condition, but also how do we work with private landowners to soak the water into their landscape preventively, so we don't have that excess water clogging our infrastructure and potentially undermining roads. So it's been a big picture process too.
Yeah, I will just also say that any good science effort, especially a community science effort, is only as good as the number of voices and people involved in it. And so the strength of this tool comes out of many, many design meetings that we held, not just with research computing and our research team, but also with Kelly and with other folks at the town level and with regional planners. And we have ongoing conversations with folks across the state about how to ensure that this tool is doing what it's designed to do. That's not sort of working at dual purposes with other existing tools. It's filling a gap, that it's filling a gap at the town level, at the level of actual roads, at the level of flood mitigation. And we really welcome, I, as a researcher, I, as a resident, our entire team welcome any feedback, especially if you're out there using the app and you find something that really doesn't work, or that really does work. We want to hear about it. Yeah, it's good time to open up for questions, Alex, or do we want to?
Yeah, so I will say thanks, Kelly and Charis. Before we move on to the Q&A, we're in the discussion portion of the webinar. We're also going to hear from JoAnn Hanowski, a member of the Greensboro Conservation Commission. JoAnn is going to speak to the successes and the challenges of Greensboro's Adopt-a-Culvert Program, a partnership between the Greensboro Conservation Commission, the watershed stewards of the Greensboro Association, and the National Adopt-a-Drain Program. So thanks for being here, JoAnn, and take it away.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and I'm delighted to hear that there are other people and excited about culverts and how they can impact water quality both locally and on a watershed scale. So I have some slides that I think Alex has. Okay, so I'm JoAnn, and this project is coordination between the GA and the Greensboro Conservation Commission. Next. So the history, I think, all of us became aware of how water flows or doesn't flow during the 2 floods of 2023 and 2024, which I think in 23, it was over $5 million in road damage in Greensboro, just Greensboro. And in 2024, it was another 3 million. And, so just based on my experience and observations on my road and other roads in my neighborhood, I just noticed that a lot of this road damage probably could have been prevented if the ditches and the culverts, the ditches especially, had a lot of debris in them, and when the water rose, it washed down into the culverts, and a lot of the washouts were caused by block culverts. So I started thinking about some work that I had done in the past. I'm from the Midwest, and over 20 years ago, I was working in a county in northern Wisconsin, and on all the county had GPS, the locations of all their culverts, and they went out annually to check on their culverts to see if they were blocked, if beavers had come in. And so, this idea of keeping track of your culverts and making them work, make sure they're working, is fairly old. But and so I decided to bring this up at the stewards group, and we started a pilot program in 2024. And I'll just tell you a little bit about what we're doing here. Next. So the first thing we did was we got a proposal together and submitted it to the select board, basically saying what we're doing, why we're doing it, who's going to do it, and what the outcomes were going to be, in order to get their permission, more or less to let them know that we're out there digging around in the culverts and the ditches. And then also we wanted to get permission to approach the road crew directly if we found a problem with the culvert. And so they agreed that this was a good idea and let us go at it. So I think this was brought up before, is that we also, Greensboro has a town policy and rules for culverts. And it was important initially to identify, we found some problems with culverts. Well, are they private culverts? Are they public culverts? And so who's responsible for the culvert? And so there are some guidelines and rules on who's responsible, whether it's private or public. So we have that information for our volunteers. Okay, next. So initially we just use Facebook, Front Porch Forum, town meeting day, local newspaper, and personal contacts. And we were successful in getting about 25% of the 800 culverts in Greensboro. Those are 800 public culverts in Greensboro adopted. So, we got maybe, mostly concentrated around Caspian Lake, mostly because the people that are working on this project know people in that watershed. And so that's where most of our effort is today. But it became a little bit challenging to keep track of who's doing which culvert and who's adopted and agreed to clean the ditches and the culverts. So last year we found we thought we needed an easier way to keep track of who's doing what and where and when and how. So we found this organization. It's actually based out of Minnesota. It's called Adopt-a-Drain Program. And so we signed on with them last summer, and now their platform has the geolocations of all of the culverts in Greensboro. So we shared with them that database. And so now if you're a adopter, you can put in your address, and it shows all the culverts in your neighborhood and on your road. And it shows whether or not they're adopted or who's adopted them. And so now this is making it easier for us to coordinate who's doing which culvert. There's also, when people clean out their culvert or ditches, which we ask them to do twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall, there's a form on the website that you go on and you tell them how much debris and what kind of debris you pulled or cleaned from your ditches and culverts. And then you get a report at the end of the year. The Adopt-a-Drain program sends us a report on how much debris we cleaned, what kind of debris we cleaned out of the ditches. And I think, I know Burlington is on this platform and they may need it for regulatory reporting. It shows like how much, silt, how much garbage, whatever, and you can actually breaks it down by sub watershed, which we really don't need, but I think there are bigger cities that use this for regulatory purposes. Okay, next. So right now we have actually found that participants are less likely to officially adopt culverts on our new platform. And I'm not sure, I mean, I've heard some people say they don't want to sign up for another website, or maybe they don't want to officially be written down or identified somewhere. So we're working on that. Another problem we have in Greensboro is that we're an aging community, and it's really hard. People say, "Oh, I'd love to help, but I really can't. My knees don't work. I can't go down into the ditches and do that." We've enlisted the fire department on a few occasions to come out, and they can actually blow out culverts, the sediment from culverts. So we're dealing with some challenges and getting, more people to officially adopt the culverts. I think the people that are the most steadfast volunteers are those that personally experienced a loss during either one of the floods, either, some personal property damage or loss of access to their homes. And so they know firsthand, the outcome of plugged culverts, and they're more invested, I think. So going forward, of the 800 culverts in Greensboro, some of them are on flatter roads where it's not as much risk for flooding. So we're looking at identifying the most at-risk road segments and target those for adoption, and also to look at sub-watersheds in Greensboro and look at having somebody come in and document the condition of all the culverts and ditches on those roads. And we recently have been working with Orleans County Conservation District personnel to map all the culverts and ditches and identify problems on Gebby Road, which is a main road in Porterbrook watershed, which is the biggest sub-watershed in the Caspian that goes into Caspian Lake. And again, another thing we're looking at is maybe to identify key individuals that live on that road so they can get their neighbors together and maybe do like Green Up Day, just do a culvert day, clean up ditches and culvert day, and make it more of a social thing and a part, have a little gathering at the end of the day to keep people more interested and think that they're not in this alone, that they actually have neighbors that care about these things. So it's interesting to see your app and how that works. I think what we're trying to do is just get people out there, get the problems identified, and get them fixed as fast as we can. And then, just last week we were out with Will Marley from Orleans County and, identified, some other really key problems with the roads and the way the roads are maintained and how that impacts the sediment that's going into the ditches and then going into the culverts. So just, two main things: road crowning and those berms that develop on the side of the roads after the winter from the plowing are just really critical in maintaining correct road runoff, rain runoff from the roads into the ditches. So, it's all, you've tried to fix one problem and you see that there's a lot of other problems that exist as well. So, thanks for your interest. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Be happy to help share some of our experiences here in Greensboro.
Well, thanks for that, JoAnn. And I think we are gonna now go to taking some questions. And I know that we had one in the chat that I think is from, I believe, Alyssa, who I owe an email to anyway. So, but her question was, she's the bat biologist at Vermont Fish and Wildlife. She tracks reports of bats roosting in culverts and bridges. And her question was, is there a way to encourage folks to note any wildlife observations inside the culverts, incidentally, in the notes section? So I
Yeah.
think this is geared toward Charis, your app piece.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's funny because when I was out on Saturday here in Springfield, I did see a garter snake, a very cold garter snake, basking at the entrance to a dry culvert. And I included this little garter snake in my photo and I pointed it out in the notes. I did it as a kind of as a joke in my head, but I do think there's lots of ways to use this community science technology. I know folks are probably maybe familiar with Cornell University's Lab of Ornithology, the bird app, whereas community science, also sometimes called citizen science, I prefer the term community science. Community scientists can like report sightings and gather information. So in my dream of dreams, a platform like what Culvert Crawlers is now can expand to become other kinds of observational platform, and can also include eventually like stories about what people saw with regard to flooding or with regard to land change or water movement, or maybe even stories about wildlife. I think if we were to incorporate that right now, it would be pretty far from the intended purpose, but I love the idea eventually of having something where there can be many kinds of stories told in a community science app like this.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And then, yeah, if anyone else has questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or raise your hand, and we can pass the floor to you. But I know I had my own personal question, especially for Charis and Kelly. When you go out for a road day, because on Montpelier Conservation Commission, we've done vernal pool like survey, which like different than culverts, but still you're accessing a resource on a piece of land. And like, do you notify the community ahead of time? Like, how does that notification work? And have you had instances where people are like not thrilled that you're there? Like, how do you deal with that whole community interaction? Because we try to always do notification, but I could also see on a planned work day, like on a road segment, you might not know all the owners and things like that. So I was just curious if you could speak a little bit to how you do that. And same with JoAnn, like it's just it applies to all of this type of work where you're accessing land that might not always be public land.
Well, I know from my experience doing some of the walking, like specifically for Green Up Day on the road we were on, we had reached out to, you were on La Crosse Road. There you go, Mo. Charis. Right, we had reached out to the town manager and the town public works department to say, this is what Culvert Crawlers is. This is what it is not. This is what we would like to do for you to support your work without you putting more man hours in. Could you help identify one or two roads that you would like us to tackle for Green Up Day, but also for, you know, maybe it's a high priority, but you're always having chronic problems. You just can't get out there to look at, you go deal with the problems, but you don't look at the culverts. And they identified Kirk Meadow Road for us. and La Crosse Road, which is a crossroad. And when we went out there, before we went out there, there was a lot of social media posting, and I didn't put up notifications on people's doors or anything like that. But we had safety cones, we had our Culvert Crawlers vests and hats on, and we were just very aware, you know, if we're going to cross over here to look at the inlet, because we already checked the outlet or vice versa, make sure we look at the traffic, waving at people. Nobody stopped to say, what are you doing? But we made sure not to go traipsing up onto property. But Charis, you may have a comment about perhaps you're on the road and you see, hey, there's a culvert up there. Maybe we should just flag, we should reach out to this homeowner and see if they'd like to include their culvert.
Yeah, I haven't done that. I think you maybe have, but the thing that comes to mind to me is that we emphasize we stay on public roads. So we're doing this in collaboration with towns. And when we started the project, we were doing the same thing with Cavendish and Ludlow town offices, really saying like, okay, so we're going to be out. Where should we go? Right. There we've taken students out from both from UVM and from Dartmouth, and one of the things we talk about with them is the importance of staying on public property because folks, reasonably don't want total random people wandering all over their land, even if it's for a good purpose. So I think the conversation about how to ensure that we're visible and friendly is really important. I did actually have somebody stop and ask me on Saturday, what's the town up to? And I explained that I'm not actually with the town. And then I talked about the program. So it's actually a great opportunity to connect as long as we stay on publicly available land. JoAnn, I don't know if you want to add anything about how you all work.
We don't, as of now, it's all independent. Everybody goes out and works when they have a few minutes or, like the culverts that I adopt, I drive by, almost every other day. And if there's some debris that has fallen in, I just stop and get it out. So we just let the people work when they have the time to do it. So we haven't had any official days. I think, we had thought about having some work days, especially in some areas of the town that are under adopted. Just get a bunch of people out there and have a work day and tackle it at that time.
Yeah, okay. And then Kelly, do you have any other comments on that question or a separate question?
Yeah. Actually,
Okay.
it was just sort of a follow-up on, I had made a post on Facebook about we were on such and such a road and this is what we did and it was so cool. We had a great day. Somebody actually saw that post and reached out from a neighboring town, Cavendish, actually, to say, hey, I saw your post. I'm really interested. I have a large culvert that the state has a right of way to put in on my private property. Could you come train me to be a senior citizen community culvert crawler? So I'm actually, Charis, I was going to connect up with you to see if you're available for that time for that site visit on private property, spreading the word. And then I don't know quite how much time we have left here, but part of reaching out to the conservation commissions was, Charis, you have mentioned to me on numerous occasions that we were trying to build culvert crawlers out to be a community-led effort and be duplicatable around the state, the region, the country. And Charis and I and our teams don't have to race around and train people between the training materials and then having sort of a host organization within the town that could very easily be a conservation commission or a conservation committee, like was it Middlesex, where the high school students reached out and said, hey, I'd really like to do this, but I don't know how to get started. If that one student had an organization that was already in place in this vein of conservation and stormwater management or conservation commissions, that could be a great way for them, the individual, to then go to the Conservation Commission, who then has the training material and be that sort of liaison. And then we are here to help with the troubleshooting and so on and so forth. And that was a long-winded thing to say. I'm sorry.
No, that's great. Well, I appreciate the answer. And I think, Allison, you have a question for the panel here.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Charis. Nice to meet you, JoAnn. I hadn't heard about the Greensboro initiative as well. Two questions. One, I'm still a little unclear if there is any relation with the VT culverts database, or how if there is any kind of connections with that, how that works. Second question, this is a meeting, I guess, probably for Conservation Commission members. Do you all think that replicating this program is best done by the conservation commissions because they are at the town level? That seems like a good kind of jurisdiction to at least start this and then radiate outwards. And if so, like, what are the steps that a conservation commission could actually do to get this going? Is it hosting a training, collecting volunteer emails? Is it combining with Green Up Day? Obviously that just happened, so maybe next year. But yeah, like what are the actual like next steps that a conservation commission could do to get this going in their town?
Great question. I will speak to the first one about VT culverts, and then maybe Kelly can speak to the one about next steps. So we have ongoing conversations, really fruitful ones with Jeff Nugent and with Pete Fellows and other folks who are in RPCs and connected directly with the maintenance of the VT culverts database. And we are working to figure out how they can play well together. At the moment, the easiest way for that to work is for folks that are working with the VT Culverts database to download the CSV file, to log into the platform, Culvert Crawlers platform, download the CSV file, and then import the data into VT Culverts. Of course, the data we collect is a lot simpler. There's a lot more fields of data in VT Culverts. And we deliberately simplified this data collection tool to emphasize the community science training and local knowledge building aspects. It was never intended to be a regulatory tool. If people who have those roles want to use the data to sort of line it up against VT culverts and say, okay, what can I learn from culvert crawlers that will be useful to VT culverts? Great. And we are happy to figure out how to support that. But the intent was not to be a regulatory tool. And so like through ongoing conversations with the folks that are involved in that, we are working out what does it mean for these two platforms to the people who work with them to work together to combine local knowledge, community science data with the more formal knowledge collection that goes through VT culverts. Kelly, do you want to talk about people's next steps?
Well, there's what I anecdotally think next steps should be, and then Charis is the one who pumps the brakes and says, "Well, we're not there yet." So I appreciate that. Rein me in a little bit. I think if I'm not speaking out of turn here, I think that a next step for a conservation commission that's interested would be to review the training materials and get in touch with us directly. I'm going to put my culvert.crawlers@gmail.com. And then Charis, did you want to put yours in there as well? And then we could set up, if there are questions beyond the training materials, then we could certainly set up maybe a Zoom or something like that, a remote meeting to troubleshoot questions, anything along those lines. I know that we've had in one situation, a student does this, I think it was Middlesex. Am I right on that? She's in Middlesex? Okay. She had reached out to her not town manager, it was the town road crew guy. And I think they were a little concerned about like high school kids being on the roadsides, liability issues. So it was a slower start than it might have been had a conservation commission sort of overseen it.
Can I add something else, Kelly?
Please do.
So we've seen folks from conservation commissions would make a lot of sense to work on this work, but you also all in your areas know who are the people who are doing work like this that might be interested in taking on a project like this. It doesn't have to be the Conservation Commission itself. As we know, town appointed commissions and have a lot of kinds of work that you do, right? So with local knowledge about who might be interested, figuring out how to plug things in and say like, hey, I heard about this tool. Is this something you would be interested in? Great. There's also the long-term recovery groups in the different areas that were impacted by flooding in the last 3 years have been pretty active in doing mitigation work that's like this. So I think in a lot of areas, if a conservation commissioner wanted to connect with a long-term recovery group and spread the word about culvert crawlers or about JoAnn's program, those would be reasonable things to do. So just plug in with people that are already involved in thinking about mitigating floodwater impacts and go from there. That would be that would be my suggestion. Also think about like community service hours that people might need to accrue for various reasons. We had a couple of youth join us in Springfield for community service hours this past weekend. Also, we are officially affiliated with Green Up Day. There wasn't a lot of publicity around that connection this year, and we're hoping there will be more publicity about it next.
Yeah, hopefully next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
Does that answer your question, Al?
encouraging-
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
I was just gonna say, we're encouraging spring and fall cleanups. Green Up Day was a
Yeah.
perfect marriage because people are already out on the roadsides, and then something around that first weekend in October, leaves are often down. They can rake leaves out of a ditch, and there's less tall vegetation blocking the culverts.
Okay, well, thank you. And I think we are coming up on time. So unless there's any last minute questions. Okay, seeing none. Well, on behalf of the AVCC and VECAN, I want to thank you all for joining us today. A recording of today's webinar will be posted on our YouTube channel early next week, and you can find additional resources on our website. The link is in the chat. The best way to keep track of upcoming AVCC programming is through our community listserv at btconservation@googlegroups.com. We encourage you to use this as a 650 member forum to discuss important conservation issues, ask questions, share success stories, and learn about upcoming events and opportunities just like this one today. Next week, we will be announcing the recipients of our latest round of Tiny Grants, and we look forward to bringing you the Town Forest Stories webinar series later this spring and summer. And finally, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at info@btconservation.org with any questions, comments, or suggestions. Enjoy the rest of your week and the rest of mud season. And thanks to our presenters, JoAnn, Kelly, and Charis. Thank you.